Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs sitting at 12-3, number one in the AFC. If they win their final two games, you have a home field advantage and you have a first round bye. Kansas City, the good news for them is this past week Andy Reid said that there were no new injuries to report coming out of that Seahawks game. But I want to talk about some stuff they have in their back pocket that I've been seeing more and more of the last few weeks heading into the playoffs. That's just going to be very nice to have, and it starts with that defense. In the offseason, whether it was the draft, free agency, trades, whatever it was, we saw a couple of tweaks, a couple of revamps for this Kansas City Chiefs team, whether it was the offensive line, whether it was the wide receiver room, but personally I saw the most on the defensive side, and we really saw things fully click for them this past week against Seattle. Geno Smith, comeback player of the year, Kenneth Walker, DK, they have a bunch of threats on the offensive side, and Seattle was desperately playing to stay alive in the playoffs. Their defense, the Kansas City Chiefs defense, held the Seahawks to just 2 of 14 on third down, giving up just 10 points. Their defense is now ranked number 16th in the league, and if in these last 2 weeks against Denver and Vegas they can just creep on up to top 10, around top 10, to me, that could be the difference maker for a Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl. But welcome back to the channel, man. We can't talk today. Hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas. If you enjoy this video, you like daily NFL content, you like a couple of videos a week for the Kansas City Chiefs, hit that like button, hit that sub button for more. Show some love down below on the Kansas City Chiefs, what you guys are feeling on this team. But let's try and get this video to 500 likes. That would be absolutely awesome. Appreciate it. So, 24-10. The reason I bring that up is because I feel like their defense gets a bad rap. You know, they gave up technically 24 in the overtime victory to Houston. They gave up 28 to Denver, 27 the week before to Cincinnati. I don't think their defense is as bad as sometimes the stat sheet may show. Like, they get the stops and they make the plays when they need to make the plays. And even just long-term outlook. You pair them with the number one offense in the National Football League, putting up 30 points a game, which is insane. There's some bodies on this defense. Nick Bolton. This guy is extremely young, and he's a rising star in the league that I don't think too many people outside of Kansas City Chiefs fans, Chiefs Kingdom, I don't think too many people are talking about Nick Bolton. He's having a phenomenal season this year. He's fresh into the league a couple of years in. He has 154 total tackles this year. He has a couple sacks. He has several tackles for loss. He has a couple pass deflections. He has a couple forced fumbles. He has a couple interceptions. He has 96 solo tackles. L'Jarius Sneed, another young rising stud. Willie Gay, another young rising stud. Justin Reed, huge acquisition. He was a huge acquisition. And then there's guys like Carlos Dunlap. Chris Jones with 12 sacks on the season. Chris Jones is a legitimate defensive player of the year candidate. Very legit. He's got 12 sacks. He's got 4 pass deflections. He has 2 forced fumbles. He's got a fumble recovery. Stats don't really do Chris Jones justice, even though those are very impressive stats for a defensive tackle. Frank Clark, 5 sacks. Carlos Dunlap, 4 sacks. This is a very strong defensive line. Very, very strong. Now, if their defense can continue to do what they've been doing in the last several weeks, just get stops when you need to get stops, and to be quite frank with you, the defense has done it for a majority of the season. There's a reason they're 12-3. Obviously, you have MVP in Patrick Mahomes. You have a genius offensive mind. You have so much talent. We'll talk about it in just a second. But don't discredit this defense, because it could be the difference between a Super Bowl championship or no Super Bowl championship. So I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say Super Bowl championship, but hopefully you catch my drift as far as what I'm saying. So that's something I keep an eye out, especially against Denver, because when you fire a head coach, everybody else's jobs are at stake and they're on their best behavior and they're going to come ready to play. So that Denver game, I'm not saying it's a trap by any means, because Kansas City is extremely talented, but there are some things I'm going to be looking out for, because it could be the last week we see most of these starters play. Now, offensively speaking, I genuinely believe there's a couple of players outside of the obvious, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Juju, etc. I think the run game is extremely important. I think Pacheco is having a phenomenal rookie season. He's averaging almost 5 yards per attempt, 735 yards on the season. I think you pair him with Jerick McKinnon, who we've been starting to see a lot more the last couple of weeks. This past week against Seattle, he had a couple touchdowns, a bunch of receiving yards, some rushing yards. Nothing too crazy in the rushing department, but we've seen him have really good games late in the season. He's a guy you can lean on. He's a guy you can rely on. I also love the fact that you can have guys like Kadarius Toney, Mecole Hardman when he's healthy, Sky Moore. These guys can also get some rushes. Now, Mecole Hardman is actually a secret weapon I have because this guy is fast. And he's only played half of the season for him. He wasn't ready to go for Seattle. Personally, I'm in no rush for him to get back because that is another big thing with Kansas City. As I pointed out at the beginning of the week, Andy Reid said there were no new injuries to report coming out of the Seattle game. That is huge. It's Christmas time. It's late December. These games are ice cold. It's hard, we've played almost a whole season. It's hard for some of these guys to stay healthy. So getting Mecole Hardman back, he's vital to this team. He's got 4 touchdowns on the season, 25 receptions, 300 yards. The stats don't really do him justice. He is a huge weapon for this already explosive offense. You pair him with the best tight end in the league, Travis Kelce. He's almost got 100 receptions on the year. He has over 1,250 yards. He's got 12 touchdowns on the season. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the National Football League. Juju Smith-Schuster, MVS, he's caught a couple big passes recently. Jerick McKinnon out of the backfield. You got guys like Noah Gray, Justin Watson, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney. I cannot wait to see the involvement of Kadarius Toney in these last couple of weeks because he is also one of those secret weapons. There is a reason that they went out and traded for him, and we've been seeing him work his way back in that Houston game. We saw him get back a little bit in that Seahawks game. He ended up having a touchdown. But we've seen some weeks, like you go back a month ago or a little over a month ago to that Jacksonville game. He had 4 catches, 57 yards, and a touchdown. He'll get you some rushes. He'll get you some receiving yards. He can do it all. So Kadarius Toney, when he's healthy, and keep in mind he's only 23 years old. That's another thing with this Chiefs team. It's not like you're the Rams of last year where you've got a bunch of these players at the tail end of their prime playing the best football of their life. This team has youth. They have experience as well. This team is really enticing. And they're getting some love. They're definitely getting some love. But I would not be surprised if the Kansas City Chiefs were to make it back to the Super Bowl. I genuinely think in the AFC, I have my concerns with a lot of these teams except for the Cincinnati Bengals. I really think we're going to see a championship game of Kansas City versus Cincinnati. That's going to be one fun football game. So let me know what you guys are thinking about the Kansas City Chiefs heading into the final 2 games of the regular season. As always, hit that like button, hit that sub button. Please show a comment, show some love, and I'll see you guys later.